Good morning, guys, and Happy New Year. This is our first virtual lesson for the new semester. This week in reading, we actually have two stories. We have a story called The Nose Awards, and we have a story called Octopus Escapes Again. So again, we have two stories, and we're going to talk about those first, and then we'll get into our math lesson. Okay, so our vocabulary for the Nose Awards. Our first word is keener. If an animal's senses are keener, they are better, sharper, and more developed. Security dogs are used at the White House because they have a keener sense of smell than most humans. Nostrils. Nostrils are openings in a nose that take in air for breathing or smelling. My nostrils help me smell the delicious food on the grill. Trumpet. If you trumpet a message, you say it loudly and forcefully. The elephant can trumpet sounds to warn others of danger. So we have 3 words for the Nose Awards. And for the Octopus Escapes, we have 4 words. Our vocabulary words for Octopus Escapes are flexible. If something is flexible, it can bend or change shape without breaking. A siphon is a tube or hose that is used to pull liquid in or out. The siphon is located below the eyes on the octopus. Lurking. If an animal is lurking, it is hiding while it waits to catch another creature. The mighty lions are lurking in the bushes. Invisible. If something is invisible, it cannot be seen. The talented magician made his assistant invisible. Okay, so those are our 2 stories for this week. Make sure when you get into Canvas, you listen to the Nose Awards and Octopus Escapes Again. Ms. Johnson are going to read those stories to you, and then you're going to go over the new words for this week. And you have an assignment called Elephants Are Amazing. So make sure you get all of that work done. Please don't skip the videos. Make sure you click on them and listen to them carefully. Alright, for math, we are going to practice some rounding. And then we'll get into our word problems. Alright, so let's review rounding a little bit because you are going to have some rounding activities in Canvas coming up in the next few days. Alright, so this says, round each number to the nearest tens place. Okay, remember, you always need to know the place because that's how you're going to find your number. Okay, so remember we have the rounding roller coaster, and remember we have the saying, find your place, so we know the tens place. Find your place, go next door. 5 or more, let it score. 4 or less, let it rest. So we're going to find our tens place. Okay, so we have the digit 34. Well, I know my 3 is in the tens place, so I find my place, go next door. 5 or more, let it score. 4 or less, let it rest. So my 4 is the one being the bossy neighbor. So we're going to find the 4 on the roller coaster. Okay? 4 or less, let it rest, which means my 3 is going to rest, so it's not going to change, and the rest turn into zeros. Alright, let's do one of those again. Round each number to the nearest tens place, so we're still doing the tens place. Find your place, go next door. 5 or more, let it score. 4 or less, let it rest. So this is 5 or more, let it score, which means the 8 is being the bossy neighbor, and it's going to tell the 7 to score. Well, when you score, your 7 goes up 1 and turns into an 8. And the rest turn into zeros. Okay? Now we have 263. We're still rounding to the nearest tens place. We're not rounding to the hundreds place. We're rounding to the tens place. So ones, tens, hundreds. Find my place, go next door. 5 or more, let it score. 4 or less, let it rest. Well, I know 3 is 4 or less, let it rest. Okay, now, before we do anything, the 2 is over here by itself. We're not doing anything with the 2. The 2 is not changing, so my 2 stays the same. Okay, 4 or less, let it rest, which is telling the 6 to rest, and the rest turn into zeros. Now that one's a little tricky because we're still rounding to the tens place, but the digit has a hundreds place, so you're not changing the hundreds place digit. Okay, let's look over here. Round to the nearest hundreds place. Okay, so I know my place, find my place, hundreds. My hundreds place is right here, find your place, go next door. 5 or more, let it score. 4 or less, let it rest. Well, I know my bossy neighbor is going to be 5 or more, let it score. So it's going to tell the 3 to score, which means it goes up 1, and the rest turn into zeros. Okay, again, hundreds place. 5 or more, let it score. 4 or less, let it rest. This is part of 4 or less, let it rest, so I know my 6 is resting. And the rest turn into zeros. Okay, now notice here, I'm still rounding to the hundreds place, but this digit goes all the way to the thousands. So I'm not rounding to the thousands, I'm rounding to the hundreds. So if that's the case, remember my 3 doesn't change, because I'm rounding to the hundreds place. Here's my bossy neighbor. 5 or more, let it score. 4 or less, let it rest. So the 6 is part of the 5 or more, let it score, which is going to tell the 5 to score. So it's going to go up 1. And the rest turn into zeros. Okay? So we'll practice a little bit more of this tomorrow also. And tomorrow you will have a little quiz to check for your understanding for rounding. Alright. We're going to go ahead and move into our word problems for today. We're going to talk about the difference between a one-step and a two-step word problem. Okay, so make sure you follow along with me, guys. And make sure you have a piece of paper and a pencil so you can show your work, because whenever you do this on Canvas, you're going to need to show your work. Alright, Lucas has 2 boxes of Legos. One box has 427 Legos, and the other box has 296 Legos. How many Legos does Luke have in these 2 boxes? Okay, so this is just a simple one-step problem. How many does he have? Okay, so I know I'm adding because it wants to know the total. So I have 427 plus 296. 7 plus 6 is 13. Put my 3, carry my 1. Don't forget to carry that number. 1 plus 2 is 3, plus 9 is 12. I put my 2, carry my 1. Don't forget to carry those numbers. 1 plus 4 is 5, plus 2 more is 6. So we have 600 and 23. 623. Okay, so that's a simple one-step problem. Alright, let's talk about this problem now. This one's a little more tricky. Ron, Eric, and Kathy each made necklaces for their friends. Ron made 35 necklaces. Eric made 43 necklaces. And Kathy made 27 necklaces. What is the difference between the number of necklaces Ron made and the number of necklaces made by Eric and Kathy combined? So if you notice, we have multiple keywords here. We have difference, which means subtract, and we have combined, which means add. Now it tells you who we're combining. It tells you Eric and Kathy. Okay, so Eric had 43. Kathy had 27. 3 plus 7 is 10. 1 plus 4 is 5 plus 7 is 70. Now, 70 is not our answer, okay, because I still need to subtract. Don't forget that second step. Remember, guys, math problems can be 1 or 2 steps. So now I'm going to take my 70 and subtract Ron's, which is 35. 10, 6, 5, and 3, and my answer is 35. Okay, so today on Canvas you're going to have some one-step problems. You need to show your work, and you're going to have some two-step problems. You also need to show your work. Okay? Alright guys, make sure you watch this video, show your work, and do your work on Canvas. Bye guys.